Hello, this is Dan Ferrisi, Group Director, Content and Editorial, Industrial and Tech at Emerald, here once again at the HDBaseT Alliance booth at ISE 2026. Really excited to be joined by Lee Dodson and Sean Wargo from Apogee Insight, as well as John Richards from AVI-SPL. We're going to be talking about the state of the industry today. We're going to be getting into some data, getting into solution areas, getting into vertical markets. Why don't we start with you, Lee and Sean? I don't know who wants to start with this, but give us a sense of where Pro AV is forecasted to go in the coming year, maybe over the next 5 years. Are we going to be growing above market benchmarks? Where are we in terms of growth forecasts?
Yeah, it's certainly been a challenging couple of years. We know that 2025 was really dominated by one particular headline, which is tariffs, and how that was impacting overall demand. I think 2025 is best characterized as a hedge year, a year in which a lot of companies, decision makers decided, well, I'm going to be a little bit cautious in my investment, the end user. I might split up projects into smaller chunks to be able to continue my work through the year. But generally speaking, the industry was talking about lower growth rates, probably the lowest that it's seen since the pandemic. We're talking in the 3 to 3.5% range. 2026 is certainly a question mark. I think it looks better. I think that a lot of the uncertainty that was 2025 was, is kind of worked its way through. Be interested in the integrator perspective on this, of course. But we're talking now a little bit better growth than what we saw last year. So we'll put it around the 4 to 5% growth from a top line perspective. What's really important, as I'm sure we'll dig into today, Dan, is where do you find that growth? It's not even across the board. Some project types, some solution areas, some vertical markets doing better than others. Others are kind of flat and maybe even declining that may have some more challenges. So I think it's all about, and has always been about in Pro AV, finding your opportunities, but there's a rich landscape of that available to us these days. So I think a better year in 26 than what we saw, though, is the general outlook.
I certainly hope that is the case. We're all certainly rooting for that to be the case. AVI-SPL, of course, one of our industry's largest, if not our industry's largest integrator. So you are very well positioned to talk about a range of vertical markets, a range of solution areas. Can you give us a sense, just from your own anecdotal point of view, where the demand is right now, where you're seeing more projects, where you're seeing the most profitable projects? What are you seeing from your perspective from AVI-SPL?
Yeah, no, thanks, Dan. What I am seeing right now is, we talked about 2025, and we talked about how it felt like, obviously, definitely showed up to be a slower year or a less growth year. Currently, 2026, in my opinion, as we walk around the show and look at solutions that are being brought to market, there is a lot of new and exciting things. We're seeing a lot of convergence across those various areas of security, a lot of those areas of how software plays an impact on the overall user experience. It impacts every vertical. I mean, there's not a single vertical that I don't think has an opportunity today. And I think as we look at the solutions that are being presented here and that are going to be, shortly available or are available, that we're going to continue to see growth this year in a way that I don't feel like it's a question mark. I feel like it's a big win for big refreshes and a lot of unique solutions that are changing the way we work every day.
So, Lee, from what you see, and I know just like Sean, you're in the data every day, are you seeing, for example, like the experience economy, broadcast AV, where are you seeing real bright spots for growth, above benchmark growth? And then conversely, where are you seeing maybe below benchmark growth? And if so, if that is what you're seeing, why would those be maybe less opportune areas from your point of view?
Right. Thanks, Dan. I think those two categories you mentioned in particular are continuing to be bright spots, especially the experience economy. That is where value is for the whole community, and that is a segment that pulls in the whole Pro AV ecosystem. And broadcast AV is the other one. As we move beyond, I'll say, discrete systems, and we continue to iterate on the distribution of content, that is where the broadcast AV world and the Pro AV world overlap. And that's where I'd like to go with this, is we continue to see the convergence of, sorry to use that old buzzword, but it's true that the industry's overlap is continuing to expand. So as we see, there's more and more security being utilized in Pro AV systems. There's more broadcast and streaming. We see those lines blurring as the use case evolves, and it's expanding, which is great for everybody, because Pro AV then still grows as the heart of the ecosystem and the way that the experience is delivered.
What about areas that might be lagging a little bit? I know we all worry a little bit about commoditization. Are there rooms that are commoditized that may be lower margin? And so what would those be? And what might be some remedies? Maybe I'll go to you, John, for this second part of the question. Remedies to make sure that those projects are highly profitable. But maybe, Sean, do you want to start with laggards or potential laggards?
Yeah, I think I'd pick the obvious one that we saw with challenges kind of in 2025 starting is higher education. When you look at the forecast there, that was we're expecting a little less growth, still opportunity, still upgrades, still room-by-room conversions, still innovation being brought into higher ed. But you saw a peak of investment really coming during the early part of the pandemic. That ebbed as they then started to think about, okay, we've made an investment. Broadly speaking, now let's start parsing that out. Let's look room by room. Let's look opportunity by opportunity and go through refresh cycle. So that is a market, though, that is on the lower end of growth rate for our industry. I think there's still plenty that we can talk about there as we look at sort of the intelligent technologies that are being brought. On the other part of this equation is another market that was invested in significantly was corporate conferencing collaboration. That has also seen a lot more commoditization than we saw early on. A lot of investment in kind of newer technology. Now price points have come down a lot. There's a lot of saturation in that space for different hardware options. So the project values have come down a little bit. We'll get some updated data from AVI-SPL on this, but I would put conferencing collaboration on the lower end of growth. I think, though, where we've been looking is managed services as the offset. What's happened in our industry is we've migrated more and more towards a service offering. The reality of a managed service offering is becoming more pressing, more real, actually, than we've seen in the past. And that's where we started to get into some of the innovations that we're hearing from the integration community around AI, smart systems that help you accomplish the task efficiently of really deploying a managed service offering. So I think that's the offset, that's the counterpoint, and we can get some real perspective on that.
Yeah, John, I'll turn to you next. So obviously AVI-SPL, as I said, has a wide range of projects you work on. I'm sure education is a significant part of your portfolio, as is UC&C, corporate conferencing. How are you making sure that those projects are profitable, are not commoditized? How are you finding ways to scale and infuse managed services into what you're doing?
Yeah, no, I definitely see those trends. Now, I see that separation on how things like conference rooms and corporate spaces, while they have commoditized hardware-type items, we're also seeing some that are highly sophisticated on the video endpoint side, driving us to have faster ways of deploying and have better managed services that we can marry with them. I think in the meeting room space, it's about speed and volume, and balancing how we don't overcomplicate it. So simplicity is a core item that we have to embrace so that we can do mass room deployments with scalability, reliability, and user experience in mind. So obviously, HDBaseT, who's hosting us here, helps do that with things like getting our content ingest from a table, helping us get our BYOD experience from a camera or a codec appliance to that user's device. In education, we're seeing devices that are driving simplicity, in a way that I can add a couple cameras. We're seeing that multi-camera experience change in a way that doesn't require the same level of complexity with control systems and switchers and other things. Now, they're still required, but maybe just not as many of them in order to create the same outcomes because of the way software and other managed services have helped simplify the room. So to still create that hybrid environment where we know there's people that can't make it, We know there's people in the rooms. Same thing applies in corporate America, right? Like whether it's a meeting room or whether it's a classroom.
So the final Jeopardy question is, 2026 will be the year that ... What do you think 2026 will be the year of? Why don't we start with you, Lee?
That's great. I think we're going to see a rebound effect. I think that the cycle towards commoditization hits the ground in some cases, and the experience is what becomes the question. When cookie cutter systems are used, they're wonderful for scale, and they're efficient, but there's always the question then that starts to emerge about what is the quality of that system that's there. And we're seeing examples of this coming back, where there's interest now in expanding the deployment of I'll say large scale technologies to better that experience, better the audio experience, better the voice recognition on it. And so I think that's a wonderful opportunity for the community, the integration community, to come in and add value to those systems that are now pervasive.
And Sean, 2026 will be the year?
I'll restate what I put in my CI predictions for 2026. I actually think that 2026, while this is already happening, and we can see examples perhaps in small scale, 2026 for me is the year that we see true AI use case. So that's what it's been seeking in our market. I'm not counting ChatGPT and other LLMs being used for just quoting and general marketing messaging. I'm talking about deployed AI to make networks smarter via technologies like NetSpeak and other sorts of available options out there. So for me, this is the year AI really becomes real for Pro AV in terms of a use case deployment.
And John, it's an unenviable position to have to go third, so 2 have already been taken. Now 2026 will be the year that?
If you don't have a multi-camera meeting room, I mean, you're going to have one this year, many of them probably. I would say that is a standard. And moving forward, if you don't have 2, 3, 4 cameras in a room, whether it's smaller, whether it's larger, I mean, it just builds on all the things that we're so used to with being seen, being heard, and making intelligent decision-making coming out of those meetings and bringing people together closer in the environment we work in every day.
Well, thank you so much, John Richards. Thank you so much, Sean Wargo and Lee Dodson, for what has been a truly fascinating conversation. I feel like I have a really good understanding now of where we're headed in 2026. Hopefully, as we all said, it may be a better year than 2025, and we're on a trajectory for good, strong growth ahead. My name is Dan Ferrisi. I am Group Director, Content and Editorial, Industrial and Tech at Emerald, here at the HDBaseT Alliance booth at ISE 2026, celebrating 15 years of HDBaseT.